Good morning, boys and girls. My name is Miss Cartessa, and I am your host. This is Miss Hillary, your teacher. Today we will learn about farmers who grow crops.
Today's lesson is titled All Kinds of Crops. I can't wait to see what we will learn about today. By the end of today's lesson, we will be able to identify types of crops that farmers grow and how farmers take care of their crops. We will also be able to identify the types of food that come from different types of crops. So let's jump right in. Before we go deeper into crops, let's review what we learned last time with Miss Cartessa. We learned about sheep. So to get us started, let's sing the sheep verse of Old MacDonald. And sing along with us. Get ready.
All right. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a sheep, E-I-E-I-O, with a baa-baa here and a baa-baa there, here a baa, there a baa, everywhere a baa-baa. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
Great job. So in our last lesson, we learned that sheep eat grass and grow thick, fuzzy wool. We learned that baby sheep are called lambs, that a male sheep is called a ram, and a female sheep is called a ewe. Lastly, we learned that farmers raise sheep for their milk and wool. Now, in today's lesson, we're actually not going to talk about animals. Over the past few lessons, we have learned about all the different types of animals that are raised on farms. Sheep was one of them. What are some other animals that we have learned about so far? Think about it and tell us. Miss Cartessa, what are some of the animals we've learned about that live on a farm?
We learned about pigs, we learned about cows, and we learned about chickens.
That's right. So, believe it or not all farmers raise animals. Sometimes farmers just grow crops or plants, and sometimes farmers grow both crops and they raise animals. So, crops are plants that grow from the ground, and we use them for usually we use them for food. Sometimes we use them for other things as well. So we're going to learn all about crops today. Now, Miss Cartessa, what is one of your favorite foods that you enjoy eating?
I enjoy eating French fries.
French fries.
Yes.
Ooh, and French fries, do they come from an animal?
No.
They don't. That's right. They don't come from an animal because they are a crop. They come from a potato, which is a crop that is grown underground. So let's dive into what we already know about crops. And we actually just talked about it just now, that French fries they come from potatoes, which is a crop. Ms. Cartessa, is there something else that you know about crops?
Well, I know that crops come from the ground.
They sure do. And what's one more thing that you already know?
I know that crops can be food for animals and people.
Very good. All right, now boys and girls, let's think about some questions that we have before we dive into our read aloud. What are some questions you have about the crops? Think about it. Ms. Cartessa, help us out. What are some things that you are wondering about crops?
Well, since I like French fries, I wonder, how do the potatoes grow?
Ooh, and we will learn about that in today's read aloud. Great. What's another question that you have?
I do wonder, what crops do we find in the grocery store?
Ooh. Last question.
I wonder, what crops do animals eat?
So I guess it's not just us that eat crops. Animals eat crops too. Great. Now, before we go into our read aloud, we're going to review some vocabulary words. So, the first word that we are going to review is the word edible. Say the word edible with us 3 times. Edible, edible, edible. Listen to this sentence. The birthday cake is edible, but the candles on top are not. When something is edible, that means you can eat it. And believe it or not all plants have things that are edible. For example, the black seeds in a watermelon are not edible, or the pit of a cherry is not edible. So when we go to the grocery store, we often are looking for food that is edible for us to eat to grow big and strong. Listen carefully to my question. What is something edible you like to eat that comes from a farm? Answer the question using the word edible when you tell it. Ms. Cartessa, what is something edible that you like to eat from the farm?
Something edible that I like to eat from a farm are carrots.
Carrots, great job. The next word we're going to review is grains. Say the word grains with us 3 times. Grains, grains, grains. Grains are cereal crops which have seeds that are used to make food. Corn, oats, and wheat are all types of grains. Both animals on the farm and humans consume grains, and we have some grains right here. This is wheat. Grains make all different types of food, such as muffins, bread, even pancakes. And I love pancakes. Listen carefully to this question. Which product has grain in it? Cheese or cereal? Answer the question using the word grain. Ms. Cartessa, which product has grain in it? Cheese or cereal?
I think cereal has grain in it because I know cheese comes from milk.
That's right.
Milk is not a grain.
And where does milk come from?
Cows.
Comes from cows. Excellent. All right, well, we are ready to get started with our read aloud. As we read today, think about the questions that we were asking and questions that you were asking, and look out for new information about crops. Here we go. In the last several read alouds, you learned a lot about the different kinds of animals that might live on a farm and the things they need. You've seen that on my farm there are cows, chickens, pigs, and sheep. I spend a lot of time taking care of the animals, providing them with food and shelter, protecting them, and then getting milk, eggs, wool, or meat. I have mentioned before that I plant and harvest crops of wheat and corn on my farm, some of which I feed to my animals. I also raise these crops, as well as others like cucumbers, beans, and carrots, for my family and other people to eat. This picture shows some of the kinds of foods that different farmers grow. Can you name the fruits and vegetables that you see in this picture? I don't grow all of these things on my farm. Grocery stores buy fruits and vegetables from many different farmers, so that when you go to the store, you have a wide variety of fruits and vegetables from which to choose. You will find these fruits and vegetables in the produce section at the grocery store. Most produce is grown on a farm. The various fruits and vegetables are brought to the store after they are harvested or picked from the plants that produce them. The nice thing about vegetables is that you can eat as much as you want. Nobody is going to tell you not to eat carrots, green beans, cabbage, celery, green peppers, or lettuce. And let's not forget broccoli. I love to eat vegetables, and I hope you do too. You should also eat at least 2 or 3 fruits every day. Did you know tomatoes are actually fruits? I like to pick fresh tomatoes and eat them like you eat an apple. Mmm, so good. One crop that I grow is field corn. I used most of the field corn that I grow to make feed for the animals on my farm. But I also grow sweet corn and sell some of it at the local market each summer because many people like to eat corn too. The farmer who lives next to me grows potatoes on her farm. This picture shows a crop of potato plants. But even if you look closely at the picture, you won't see any potatoes. That's because the potatoes are actually part of the roots of the potato plant. So where do you think the potatoes are? I am sure that you remember that roots grow underground, so the potatoes are under the soil. All plants have roots. Plants use roots to take in water and nutrients from the soil and to keep them planted firmly in the earth through wind and rain. Not all plants have edible roots, but potato plants sure do. Farmers have to dig up the potatoes in order to harvest them. Can you think of some different ways that you like to eat potatoes? Do you like baked potatoes or mashed potatoes? And did you know that potato chips and French fries start out as potatoes too? Carrots, radishes, and beets are all root vegetables as well. How do you think farmers harvest these vegetables? In addition to growing fruits and vegetables, farmers may grow other types of crops. You may remember that I also grow wheat that I use to feed the animals on my farm. You might be surprised to learn that people also eat wheat, though we don't eat it in exactly the same form as farm animals do. Once the wheat is harvested, it is then processed and prepared in different ways before people eat it. Some farmers also grow other grains, like oats or rice, that are harvested and processed for people to eat. If you eat cereal for breakfast each morning, you are probably eating wheat, oats, or rice grains. The next time you eat cereal, look at the box that it came in to find out what kind of grains you are eating. Many breakfast cereals are made with whole grains, which are the best for you. Sometimes the grain is made into flour. The flour is then used in different recipes to make foods like bread, muffins, cookies, and even spaghetti. I am proud to be one of the farmers who grow crops that become food for you. Great, we have now finished our read aloud. Let's now discuss some comprehension questions. We're going to ask you a question and we want you to answer, and then Ms. Cartessa will help us and also give an answer. So let's dive in. What kinds of crops do farmers grow that are sold as food for people?
Well, I know farmers grow fruits, vegetables, and grains.
That's right. Next question. Why do farmers grow crops?
Well, the farmers grow the crops to feed animals and people.
That is right. All right. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but what is produce?
Produce is fresh fruits and vegetables.
Correct. All right, now we talked about potatoes and French fries earlier,
Yes,
so I know you were excited to learn about how what French fries come from and how potatoes are grown. So what is unique about a potato crop?
I know that the potato is a part of a root and it grows underground.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. In that picture, we couldn't see the potatoes because they were underground.
That's right.
All right. What other types of crops besides potatoes grow underground?
Carrots, beets, and radishes all grow underground.
That's right, and they're all called root vegetables because they come from the root. Okay, what types of crops do farm animals eat?
They eat field corn and wheat.
That's right. So, like old MacDonald said, he grows crops not just for us, but also for his animals. All right, Miss Cartessa, what is your favorite type of produce?
I love carrots.
It's a good one. It's super good for you too.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I have a tricky question for you.
Okay.
How would your life be different if farmers didn't grow crops?
Well, I know we would not have produce for foods such as fruit and vegetables or grains to eat.
That's right. So think about if all we had to eat was meat. Some people might be okay with that, but I think a lot of us do enjoy all the produce that we can eat.
Yes.
Now we're going to do a think, pair, share. So I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to think about it and then go tell someone at home your answer. Make sure to use a complete sentence. The question is, if you were a farmer, would you grow crops or raise animals, and why? Miss Cartessa, if you were a farmer, would you rather raise animals or grow crops?
I would rather grow crops
Ooh, and why?
because there's so much I can grow, and they tend to be more healthy than meat.
Awesome. I think I would like to grow crops too. I would like to have animals on the farm, but I wouldn't want to eat them. I would just want to have them as my pets, which I know that's not the purpose. Awesome. Now, while we read this story today, we heard this sentence, so listen closely. You will find these fruits and vegetables in the produce section at the grocery store. Say the word produce with us 3 times. Produce, produce, produce. So, produce is a crop grain that is grown for food for people, and there are fruits and vegetables. We find lots of different types of produce at the grocery store, and when you go into the store, you see all different types of fruits and vegetables. Okay, so what is your favorite produce at the grocery store? That's great. I know one of my favorite types of produce is an avocado, and I think Miss Cartessa and I talked about this. We both enjoy avocados. That's one of our favorite types of produce. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a making choices activity. So what will happen is I am going to say a sentence and actually hold up an object, and you are going to decide if it's produce or not. If it's produce, you'll say blank is produce. If it's not produce, you will say blank is not produce. All right, let's try it.
Okay.
So, we picked juicy red apples from the apple tree.
Apples are produce.
Excellent job. We picked wildflowers from the pasture.
Wildflowers are not produce.
Yeah, even though they're plants, we don't use them for food. Great job. Next one, we bought plastic cups at the grocery store.
Plastic cups are not produce.
They're not produce. We can't eat plastic cups. We bought a huge juicy watermelon at the market.
Watermelons are produce.
Yes, they sure are, and they're so great to have in the summertime too. And lastly, Are these tomatoes ripe enough to be eaten?
Tomatoes are produce.
Great job. And old MacDonald said he would eat tomatoes like we like to eat apples. He'll bite right into them. Awesome. So we have learned so much about crops today. Let's review what we have learned. Ms. Cartessa, help us out. What is one thing that you learned today?
Well, I learned that crops become produce that is edible.
Edible. Great job using 2 of our vocabulary words, edible and produce. What's something else that you learned?
I learned that the animals eat field corn and wheat.
Yes. What else?
I learned that potatoes are roots that grow underground.
Yeah, so that definitely answered our question that we had about potatoes. And what's one more thing that you learned about today?
I learned that not all farmers raise animals.
Yeah, that was definitely a big one, especially because we've been learning about so many animals on the farm. Awesome.
Thank you for joining us today. All rights and credits from this lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts. We would like to thank them for publicly sharing these materials.
Use what you have learned today. Go tell someone at home all about crops. If you were interested in learning more about crops, please check out these books from your local library or online. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you next time.